It's a pleasure to be here because I love to get challenged. And when I got the invitation for this event, I was challenged. I was asked to talk about the future of medicine, future of healthcare, future of pharma, drug traceability, the futurist mindset, how your job and life will change in 40 minutes at 8:30, right after the breakfast. So game on. I love these challenges. As the medical futurist with my team, we do research about which technological trends will change our lives and our work and our jobs, how we can prepare in time for the changes coming towards us in medicine, healthcare, and pharma altogether. And as Carter mentioned, I'm a science fiction fan. My wife thinks I have a disease because I'm not just a fan, I'm a maniac. I need my dosage every day. In books and movies, I'm not joking about this, I'm serious. I'm an addict of science fiction because that's where my juice is coming from. That's where I get my inspiration to keep on thinking about the ethical issues about the future, the advantages coming towards us, because we need to get prepared. And the personal challenge I face now on a daily basis is that the stuff in science fiction that we have been talking about in movies and books, those things have become real. I mean, you can now buy a driverless car. A guy in California was in his Tesla, not driving it. He had a pulmonary embolism. He lost his consciousness, and the car drove him to the nearest hospital, like in a sci-fi movie a few months ago. This house can be printed out in less than 24 hours. They design it in a software, and in less than one day, you get a customized house wherever you want. And it's structurally very rigid, at least for 10 years. But my favorite example is about how science fiction is becoming real is this guy. He worked in a chip factory in South Korea. He goes to work every morning, he puts on his exoskeleton, a robotic structure, and he can lift huge weights like Iron Man, the not really sci-fi but good fantasy movie. So science fiction is becoming real in every industry, except the one that matters. Whenever I go to my GP's office, there is no science fiction there. And that's awful. The one industry, healthcare, medicine, pharma, that should really thrive on science fiction, still not using it. It's awful. So what we do as the Medical Futurist team, we try to find out why we don't have science fiction technologies in everyday care and how to bring them there, how to bring sci-fi into practice today. And I won't surprise there are two major reasons behind that. There is a hardware evolutionary gap between how fast hardware is expanding and how slowly we can change. And there's an even worse software evolutionary gap. I start with the simpler one, the hardware. So that used to be our hardware two centuries ago, or years. That's how we listened to cardiac and lung sounds. And then a French physician came up with the brilliant gadget idea, the hollow wooden tube. And that was the first stethoscope, the first tool a physician could use in treating patients. It took him 3 decades to get this message across because medical associations didn't want to use a gadget while working with patients. Again, a wooden tube is what we are talking about here. And since then, we all know that that has become the symbol of being a physician. If there is something like this around your neck, you're a doctor for sure. That's how medicine works today. And then a few months ago, the first digital stethoscope came out. That's it. That's how tiny it is. I hope you can see it from the back. It can do 2 things. I can record the cardiac and lung sound I hear and listen to back again when the patient comes back after a treatment or therapy. Or if the patient lives in an area with doctor shortages, they can put it to the right locations and the application guides them through that. And I can listen to that from continents away, seamlessly and wirelessly. So it's smaller, it's faster, it's more efficient, it's more digital. And the price is half than any analog stethoscopes before that. So this is disruptive technology. Faster, more efficient, and cheaper than anything before it. So how many of you have seen your doctors using this? I guess none. So why we don't use such technologies already? Well, there's a reason. Before we had centuries to get ready for one technological innovation, then decades, now we have months and weeks, and a myriad of technologies is coming towards us every day. And no curriculum is preparing professionals to be able to use all these technologies, the range of technologies, in whatever they do every single day. And that's the simpler gap. The bigger gap is about software. It means that now I should be up to date in my field of interest. In genetics, I should be really up to date. There are about 300,000 studies that I should read. It takes 3 hours to read one. So in my lifetime, I wouldn't get to 5% of the studies. And 2 million studies come out every year. Even IBM predicted that from 2020, the amount of medical knowledge would double every 2-3 months. Not the number of studies. The number of studies, the experience, everything we have been collecting in medicine since Hippocrates will double every 2-3 months. So we are not enough as people. We need help cognitively. And when the first supercomputer from IBM called Deep Blue had a match with the reigning chess champion Garry Kasparov in 1996, it was quite a special match because Kasparov could win the match really easily. There were headlines saying that we could beat computers, and that's it. So 1 year later, they had a rematch, and it changed. Kasparov lost that match very easily. There were headlines saying that we are doomed. Technologies will just triumph over us. It happened 2 decades ago, and we are still fine, so that's not happening. But we need such supercomputers to support us in whatever we do in pharma, medicine, and healthcare. So IBM transformed it into an algorithm in the cloud called Ibm Watson that can check the patient's medical records, all the medical studies out there, the English medical textbooks, and then it comes up with suggestions about which treatment might be the best for this particular patient's case. The doctor makes a final call at the end, but they have all the information they need. Now they can only guess. No physician in the world is up to date. They can only guess. But with this, finally, we have what we need. That's what we thought. That's the holy grail of being a physician. And then last year, almost exactly a year ago, I woke up 5 times at 3 a.m., I know, but for a reason. I watched a game called Go. It's a Chinese chess game. And an algorithm from Google played the 18 times world champion on the right, Lee Sedol. That's a very interesting game because there are more potential possible movements in the game than the number of atoms in the universe. So you need more than computing power. You need human creativity, intuition, judgment. And the guy lost. That was it. We thought that technology now is better than us. That's not true. The guy said that on the right that he could only win 1 game out of 5, but he couldn't win that game without being inspired by the computer 3-4 times before that. So the 18 times world champion, got much better at his own game that he has been playing for decades just by playing a better technology. And that's the right approach. We need to step on the shoulder of technology to look further away. As things stand now, technology will stand on our shoulders. But that's why we need to step our game up and start improving ourselves, our knowledge, our skills, the skills that make us exceptional human beings, from empathy and problem solving to creativity and judgment. So then we will step on the shoulder of technology. So there are these 2 evolutionary gaps. In hardware, that's getting worse. In software, that's getting chaotically worse. And still we need to get ready. And what we have in healthcare today is a joke. When we will look back in 20 years, we will laugh at so many things. I mean, not laugh, but that's going to feel so bad. That I will tell my kids that when I became a doctor, we tested drugs on patients. We gave new drugs to some of them to see how it works, like in a barbaric, ancient era. So we need a healthcare system that's different, that has at least 5 dominant features. 1, being physically and financially accessible. 1, being personalized, because it's not today. It should be preventive, not focusing on treatment but prevention, at least a similarly big business niche. It should be augmented cognitively and physically. And the 1 feature I get the best fights in my life, it will be more humanistic than ever. With more disruptive innovations in healthcare, we will have more time for each other. Repetitive tasks which do not require human skills will get taken away by really good technologies. So that's how I see the future. But instead of talking about these in philosophical terms, I thought I would sit down a graphic designer and try to visualize my visions. I draw like a 3-year-old so that it couldn't have been working, but I brought you live scenes that might help to visualize what's going to happen next. Let's dive into them. Underdeveloped region. You can see on the left top corner a medical drone that can bring around equipment and drugs. In Central Africa, there is a company called Zipline that does that already. There, In some cases, an ambulance cannot get to the location in 1 day, not even minutes, in less than 1 day. So they can use the drones, GPS automated drones, to send equipment and drugs to where it's actually needed. They are doing that already, like in a sci-fi movie. You can see a very special equipment in the doctor's hand. And I'm going to have some religious questions here. If there are anybody in the room liking Star Trek, that's fine. But the only real space opera is Star Wars. But still, in a very good Star Trek series, Dr. Meskó used a tricoder. You know, the patient came in, he scanned the patient, and he told him exactly what the diagnosis is, what vital signs it could measure. So that's out there already. It's a device. I can measure with this your body temperature, your heart rate, blood pressure, your one-channel EKG, sleep quality, daily physical activities, all these vital signs and health parameters in one small device that can last for 2-3 weeks without even charging it. So we have a tricoder already. You can see a 3D printer on the right that can print out anything on demand. Equipment, finger splints, casts. If you ever had a broken arm or limb, you know what I'm talking about. The plaster cast is huge and itchy. You can't live a life with it, and it's itchy. And you have muscle atrophy below it, and it's itchy. It's really awful. But with these 3D printed casts, we can just move around freely. It's very thin, very light. I had a shower while having the cast on my broken arm. And it was customized to my arm and 3D printed in less than 1 minute. So the company, actually called Exovite in Spain, is doing that already. And you can see telemedicine on the top, that we should never be left alone with really hard professional decisions to make. So even though it might look futuristic, all these things, the elements, are out there. The future of workplace. On the right, you can see that we will compete against each other about who is living a healthier life. By using objectified, digitized sensors, finally we can use data to compare. I want to live a healthy life and get rewarded for this, even not just from my insurance company, but also from my employer. You can see in the middle what I'm really hoping for, so I don't have to travel 60 times or 50 times a year, virtual reality. By using these now very cheap glasses and devices, we could be present virtually at any location. On the right, you can see a guy working in a factory. There's a special glass on his head. It uses augmented reality. Digital information is being projected onto what he's seeing. So even factory workers will be able to start work without prior training, because the glass will tell them exactly what to do in the scene that they are seeing right now. And he stood up from a wheelchair, as you can see. There are 3,000 patients right now in the US who can walk even by being paralyzed in the waist down with exoskeletons like the guy used in the South Korean chip factory. Regarding our homes, let's dive into the future of bathrooms. I thought there could be a smart toothbrush, gamifying better oral hygiene. There could be a microchip in the toilet, to check urine and notify us on the smartphone that there is something wrong. A company called MC10 is doing that right now in the US. I thought there could be a digital mirror, so I wake up, I look into the mirror. It tells me my schedule for the day, my blood pressure, my stress levels, my heart rate. I used one in Dubai a few months ago. So again, all these, as the Internet of healthy things, are out there, and they are coming to our job, to our workplace, to our homes, to measure data, to make smarter decisions about lifestyle and healthcare altogether. But I know, and I can see it on many of the faces I see right now. It's a very strange world that we are heading to. It's very technological. We don't want to lose the human touch. We want to matter, and we want to be the ones controlling the situation. I get it. There are many ethical issues. And I thought I would show you one dystopic future that I want to avoid at all costs. I summarized all my ethical problems in this one picture. On the right, you can see people with virtual reality goggles at the airport, living in their virtual lives, not even seeing real life anymore. You can see how technology could be used as a fashion. It's not that. It has a purpose. On the left, you can see what happens when in the breakfast, your smartphone tells you should not choose that one, but this one, because that's better for your DNA and your metabolic background. I don't want to live in such a Dr. Big Brother world. We need to keep things real and still fight ethical challenges. But my point with these live scenes is that not just waves of changes are coming towards us because of new technologies, a tsunami is coming towards us. And the shadow, you can see the shadow already. So it will hit us no matter what, and we are unprepared because none of us has been trained to be ready for this. No curriculum, no educational system, no government or organization can prepare us and have been trying to prepare us for what's coming next. But you should be. Because when these waves of new technologies, when disruption hits us, you should be prepared. So then you still remain in control. If you are not prepared, who knows what happens next? Maybe an AI is much better than you are. So I think we need to prepare. And that's why I've been focusing on creating a guide or a path for people in the industry about what might come next and how we can prepare as a company, as an entity, and as an individual, because I need to put some pressure on your shoulder that you need to change too. I have been changing too in my own job and life. So let's dive into them. First, 3 points for the industry. The first is the one I'm working for every day. That's why I wake up at 5:30 every morning. For 2,000 years, there is one stakeholder in our industry that we have never asked about how to do things for them. Patients. Patients have been out of the healthcare system and pharma and medicine. They are just elements. They should follow the orders. That's not the case. We need patient design in every company. By patient design, I mean that patients should be in the advisory boards of your companies. Patients should play a really active role in designing the products, the services you create for them. That should be part of the job. And to underscore my notion, I brought you a scene from a movie, and don't challenge me about this, the best comedy group ever is Monty Python. And if you have ever been wondering about the meaning of life, I can tell you there is a movie called The Meaning of Life. It answers all your questions. It's the perfect movie about the meaning of life. In that Monty Python movie, in the first scene, a woman is giving birth. She's being brought into the hospital, and there's a very special conversation between her and the doctors.
What do I do?
Yes?
What do I do?
Nothing, dear. You're not qualified.
That movie was shot 40 years ago. That's healthcare today. You are not, don't look online, don't use technologies, don't ask me questions. I know what to do. Do you? So we don't want this. We want patient design. And to underscore my notion from a second perspective, I went to the Netherlands when they opened up a new facility, a hospital facility, where they invited patients, even before opening it up, to help them design everything in the facility for them. Because they are chronic patients, they will go back every week, every month, and they should be involved in what we create for them. And again, a science fiction reference, don't challenge me about that in the Q&A session. The best director ever is Stanley Kubrick. No question about that. And the best science fiction movie ever, that's very hard, but 2001: A Space Odyssey. That movie was shot 50 years ago. If you haven't watched it, please watch that movie today. It's the perfect sci-fi movie. It's brilliant, it's beautifully shot, it's well designed, it's full of technologies that looked futuristic 50 years ago and still look futuristic today. That's why it's brilliant. And the way it is Kubrick didn't turn to the experts in Hollywood. He went to the actual experts. He went to IBM, he went to NASA. He wanted to hear from people who are working on those stuff to find out the future. So the experts in our industry are patients, and we have never been asking them, but we should. So when in the Dutch clinic, they opened up a new facility where they involved patients in designing the care facility for them. They got this at the end. It's a doctor-patient examination room, and the patient comes in, they sit down as equal partners, no physician, patient, just equal partners discussing a problem, an issue, a symptom, whatever. When they have to examine the patient, they walk to the clinic. It's within the blue line, that's the clinic. It's a maxillofacial dentistry department. There we have a physician and the patient, the physician examining the patient. When they are done, they go back to being equal partners. Patient satisfaction is skyrocketing because patients feel involved. They are better with compliance. They understand why the therapy could work for them. They work together with the physicians. Physicians love that because it's easier to work with such patients, and the hospital is in love because money is pouring in. So I asked them, well, what was the cost of patient design? They told me that's an IKEA table, 50 euros. And that's a blue duct tape, I guess 1 or 2 euros. So that's the cost of patient design, 51, 52 euros. We need to include patients in everything, from organizing events, speaking at events, being in advisory boards, producing drugs, developing solutions for them. We need to include them in every part of the process because we work for them. But still, that creates some new challenges. I know. Just one story about this. There's a movement called We Are Not Waiting in the US. It's about patients with diabetes who just got fed up with waiting for the FDA to approve the first continuous glucose monitoring system for them. So at home, they started creating their do-it-yourself bionic pancreas systems that could wake them up in the middle of the night if there is a hypoglycemia, so they don't want to die because of that. Again, patients have been creating their own gadgets at home because they didn't want to die. Nobody died because of this, and the FDA only approved the first device last summer. So for years, that was the case. Patients creating their own medical devices because they had access to information, technology, Raspberry Pi, little tiny computers, the knowledge about creating those, and engineering friends, maker, movement, and they made it happen. I would do the same. I understand them. I would do the same. But we don't want such a chaotic world where patients start using 3D printers to create biotechnological solutions and devices for themselves. We need to keep things safe and regulated for them, which requires a much more efficient regulatory framework. But I believe that even if the challenge is here, only disruptive technologies can help us tackle that. And just a few examples about what kind of things are coming towards you. The company called Proteus Health wants to put tiny microchips into every pill, every tablet, one by one, not just drug boxes, every pill and tablet. So from a smartphone, we can watch live when my drug is being digested, how I digest it, how I metabolize it, or I could even share with my doctors that, yes, I took the medication because there's a proof I've been digesting it. So if drug traceability is an issue today, and it is, what happens when every single pill and tablet could be traced back to its original location? What happens when we finally acknowledge that producing drugs is not enough anymore? Without digital health services assigned to that, it's just not enough. Compliance worldwide is 50%. If any industry worked that inefficiently, it would have gone bankrupt decades ago, except ours. So we need digital health, gamified solutions to come with the amazing innovations and developments that we call drugs and treatments today. So what happens when we can put more information into drug boxes? Augmented reality could give us a chance to see more from a drug box, animations, three-dimensional pictures, to help patients understand what they are going through and why they need that particular box or treatment. What happens when we can print out drugs? That's not sci-fi anymore. The first 3D printed drug was approved by the FDA in 2015. It's used in epilepsy, and it was printed out with a 3D printer layer by layer. A company called FabRx, they are printing out different shapes of drugs for kids because they measure that the compliance for kids becomes really good when they can just choose which kind of, like an octopus-shaped drug is the one that they want to take every day. So they can print out drugs with a few components right now with a 3D printer, again, printing it out layer by layer. And the last thing here, and that's the last thing here, when artificial intelligence really comes into action, and we are not ready, we are doomed. I mean, when you see that a physician with 40 years of experience, a radiologist, can check your CT scan and let you know, can calculate that what volume of blood can go through your heart. And it took him 40 years to get this skill, and it takes him less than 1 hour. There's an algorithm that can do that in less than 1 minute. There are algorithms that can now diagnose skin conditions from a picture better than actual dermatologists, that can find tumors in radiology images faster and cheaper than actual radiologists. So when artificial intelligence gets here, man, we should be ready for whatever comes next, because that's going to be better than many things that we have been doing so far. Many things that we have been thinking that we are quite good at it, are we? So we need to get ready for the scale of change because of disruptive technologies. And that's why individually, we have to get ready as well. And there are just 3 things I brought to you as a food for thought, to keep thinking about those and and then challenge me at the end in a Q&A session. The first is the hardest one for me. I'm going to shock you with my next statement. I'm a geek. I'm a proud geek. I love technologies. I live with them. I live for them. I measure my health I've been doing that for 2 decades. My wife knows that what I have with my phone is a relationship based on emotions. And it's mutual. And she knows that. So the reason why I'm telling you this is I want you to understand that I'm still objective. As a geek, I need to say it out loud that we matter, not technologies. What matters is how we, society, will reject the changes or overhype them, what we do with them in our practical real life. Because technology itself is just a tool. It used to be a wooden stick, and now it's an algorithm in the cloud, but it's just a tool. We need to get ready for this or go against them, but we matter, not technology. So when people keep telling me that, well, the smartphone and social media generation just washed away the human touch from real life. We are antisocial people who check their phones all the time. That's not true. We used to behave the same way before. It's just about the scale, that now it's much harder to find a balance between using more and more technologies and keeping real life real, and the balance is really hard to find. But it's possible. There's one thing I want to avoid, though. I don't want us to become technological. So this picture was taken in California last year. This guy went out for lunch alone, and even though in his virtual world he might have been on Hawaii with some female friends, no. He sat there eating alone with a beer. That's a very sad picture. I think we should keep things real and use disruptive innovations as something that can boost our advantages, something that can support our skills and make us even better, to stand again on the shoulder of technology. So that's why we are living through a cultural revolution, not a technological one. We matter more. Microchips will come out next year, getting better and better, but we cannot change that fast. So now we have to focus on how we react to those changes, how we get ready for this. And the one skill or platform that helps us in this is called digital literacy, that literally opens up the world to all the possibilities out there, the networks that we have in mind. I've been using this for more than a decade now as an addition to my brain. I have a network of digital brains in social media. I am never alone with professional decisions to make. I can always turn to someone to ask for help, and they can always turn to me. I have about 500,000 followers a day, and we are living in one huge digital, limitless community. We can crowdsource information. We can crowdfund if we want to make an idea into a product. We can 3D print prototypes. We live in this digital sea of information, and we love this. So that's the platform that can connect us all. Plus, that's one crucial skill if you don't want to get replaced. Well, if someone thinks they cannot get replaced by disruptive innovations, they will get replaced first. I give you that. I guarantee you that. The things that come towards us, the scale of it is we cannot even imagine that right now. So we need to work on those skills that make us exceptional human beings, skills that help us get out of the crowd. And the good news is it has never been so simple to learn and so cheap to learn than it is today. I think I learned today more than during my PhD, and that was not even easy. I learned languages. I learned a programming language to understand the language technology more. I've been watching videos from lectures from Harvard and Yale and Stanford. I use applications to improve my cognitive skills, from problem solving to creativity. Every single day, I work on the skills that I think might be my weapons against these technologies. But the third point is the last one. And I hope that at this point you at least acknowledge that disruptive technologies will change almost everything around us. Not always in a good way, but, well, we should be in control of what's happening next. And I also understand that if somebody wants to get closer to understanding how these technologies will change their own jobs and lives, it won't start with dealing with artificial intelligence and robotics and genomics. There should be a simple step one. And I think there is. And it's self-care. For 2 decades, I've been quantifying my own health. I've been quite an avid health tracker. I can't tell you how many things I learned about my health, the things I need, the future of my lifestyle. I learned many things, plus I was thinking about this as an experiment in which I'm my own lab mouse. I had to try everything as a medical futurist, digital health solutions, trackers, genetic testing, to be able to tell you which ones are amazing and will change your lives and which ones are medically unreliable and awful. So I've been having quite a journey over the last couple of years. And I focused on 3 areas of health. One was physical health, concerning sleep and daily exercises. One was about cognitive health and reducing stress, quite an issue for all of us. And the last one, and it's an equal third part, was, I call it mindfulness. I want to be able to stop in the rush of life and value and appreciate things. So these are 3 major areas, and as it turns out, everything can be quantified. So I've started quantifying stuff. I started with sleep. I think the sleep quality we have in the room is quite random, sometimes okay, sometimes bad. I got fed up with that, so I turned to a smartwatch and an application. And now 9 out of 10 times I have such a great sleep, and I never have jet lag, no matter where I travel, because I have my own time zone with these. It would be great if I could just wake myself up at the best time at 3:25 instead of 35, but I'm asleep, so I can't make the decision. So I let my technologies take care of it for me. I give the smartwatch a range of 15 minutes. I want to wake up at 5:30. You get plus minus 7.5, 8 minutes. So it's your choice to find the best spot when you can wake me up. And 9 out of 10 times, it wakes me up at the best spot. So I'm energized. I wake up like this. I don't want to say you something here, but that's how excited I am about sleep tracking. It literally changed my life. I know exactly what I need to have a good night's sleep. I know how I can ruin it, but I'm in control of my own sleep quality on the long term. So that's crucial. I learned that I don't need to sleep for long hours. I just need one long, deep sleep. Someone could have told me this 20 years ago, but didn't. So I had to find out myself. Now I know what things make me have a long, deep sleep, and that's it. By having access to my immediate feedback and data about my own health, I could make good decisions. So it works. Please change your sleep quality from now on. The second is, when I was 13-year-old, I started giving a score between 1 and 10 to my physical, mental, emotional health on paper to see what things make me happier or motivate me to exercise more or make me focus more. And I found out after 1 week that if I exercise today, I can focus more the next day, and if I can focus on many days, I become happier. That's my algorithm. It's customized for all of you. So I need to make sure that I'm motivated to exercise 6 out of 7 days a week. That's why I have a smartwatch, a fitness tracker that tells me how many steps I had. It has different exercises. Last night I arrived at the hotel, I told it, but it's 10:30, so I have 10 minutes for this. Let me know what to do. It did. There was a 10 minutes hotel exercise session. I did it exactly. So I know that I have to keep on this regimen to make sure I can focus mentally better and be happier in the long term. So sleep, exercise, stress. You can quantify stress. There's a small device that can measure the electrical differences between your skin, because if you are stressed, you sweat more. If you sweat more, that can be measured. And what happens is you check your smartphone, there's an app on that. It's a very sad winter scene that you're watching. It measures your stress live, and by being not stressed, then the faster you go through to make it a very happy spring scene. It's like a meditation session. But I can quantify my stress and live through a meditation session to relax myself. I found out even EEG, brain waves, can be measured at home. There's a headband for this. It's ridiculous. You put it on, it tells you exactly the feedback about your brain activity. It tells you if, when you meditate, I thought I'd be meditating for years, dedicating time and effort to my mental health. I didn't. It was a waste of time, because the first time I started using this, I was told that my brain is so active, it was not a good way of meditation. But with this, I learned how to relax myself, and I stopped using that because I know exactly what I need now. But again, you can measure EEG at home, like in a sleep lab. But these were only about gadgets, and as a geneticist, I wanted to see my future. So I had 6 or 7 genetic tests. I have my whole genome sequence at home. You get a sampling tube like this. You have to provide either saliva sample or a cheek swab. It takes 30 minutes to write once. It's a very long process. They send you videos how to give yourself a massage to make sure you have enough saliva. So then you have it. You send it back with your DNA in it. And they analyze that. They send me the verdict by email about the conditions I have a risk for. I learned that I have a mutation that makes my risk for thrombosis 8 times higher than yours. It's good to know. I know that if I eat asparagus, I can smell it in my urine. That changed my life forever. I learned that I have a mutation that makes my risk for melanoma, a very bad skin cancer, 40 times higher than yours. So it's good to know. I learned that I have a relationship with Benjamin Franklin. Again, changed my life forever. So I learned clinically important stuff and some useless fun stuff. But from my couch, I could get my genome sequenced. Again, many companies told me that. One company told me exactly what medications I'm sensitive to. They told me if I go to my GP and they have to prescribe me cholesterol level reducing drugs, don't prescribe these because I would have these and these side effects for sure because I metabolize them differently. Again, quite good to know. But that was just my DNA. How about the alien DNA living in me, the microbiome, the microbes living in my digestive system in a symbiosis with my life? There's a company in California that can sequence the DNA of your microbiome's bacteria. So they need a fecal sample, obviously. You send it back. And they sequence the DNA. So they told me what kind of bacteria I'm living with, and based on that, what kind of diet I should follow. There was a very funny line on the sampling tube. It said, minimal quantity is enough. So I guess some users send back enough sample to make sure that they can measure everything. It's nonsense. But from my couch, as a patient, I could measure my EKG, my EEG, any vital signs and health parameters. I could get my genome sequenced at home and even get it analyzed to make medical decisions out of it. I could have my microbiome sequenced, and any patient, any of you, can do any of these right now. All of them are on the market, they are accessible. So there is no ivory tower of medicine. You might think there is one even in your industry, but that's not true. Before, only professionals, you, got access to technologies and information. Only physicians could access technology and information. There was an ivory tower. I was a professional. I had a key to the gate. I opened the gate, let patients come in. I told them what to do, and then let's make them go out. And that's it. But there is no ivory tower. There is no gate. There is no key. I'm rather a guide for my patients in the jungle of healthcare information. So there is no ivory tower in your industry neither. And that's due to new things. These devices are becoming smaller, and I don't want to use them. I want such digital tattoos, really thin sensors, that, like a chest patch like this one, that can measure 20-something vital signs and health parameters. They measure everything, and they let me know when there is something I should take care of. For those gadgets to use, I have to be a geek, a physician, a researcher, and that's not the case for many patients. So we need to make them as simple, as thin, as efficient as possible. So I'm like to believe that I'm building something like this. Anyone can measure data about health and medicine, but to make data into information, that's where we need some gadgets and technologies. To make information about my health into knowledge, that's where my proactivity is needed. And to make knowledge into wisdom, that's where the professional is needed, on an equal level partnership. So I think it's an analogy. The same way in medicine there is no ivory tower anymore. So we are not semi-gods, and patients should not be passive. They should be active players, and we are on the same level. I think the same way in your industry, you are not the semi-gods anymore. And the patients who you need to involve in every process that you are thinking about will meet you somewhere halfway through this old ivory tower of medicine. I think when one driverless car makes a mistake, all the driverless cars in the fleet can learn from that mistake right away. No other car would make the same mistake ever again. That's brilliant. So why don't we have this in our industry? When some of us makes a mistake, all the others could learn from that immediately. When some of us comes up with something really brilliant, all the others could learn from that immediately. So that's the essence of using networks of connected people, devices, the Internet of healthy things that we like to build here. And the whole essence of getting ready faster for the revolution that's coming towards us is by using these networks. Thank you so much for your attention. and we have time for 2 or 3 questions. Hopefully at least one about some science fiction suggestions in books and movies. I have some. There is one on the back and then a second here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What do you think about Black Mirror?
That might be the best example for the ethical issues we will face because of new technologies, and might be the scariest series I've ever seen in my life. So the reason why is, I mean, for those who don't know Black Mirror, that's a series on Netflix, that every episode is about a very hard use of technology, from augmented reality or artificial intelligence, and the way it will change our lives. The reason why I love Black Mirror is that it shows exactly what I was talking about here, that we matter more than technology. It does not focus on how technologies will evolve, it focuses on how we will evolve or devolve by the use of new technologies. But the reason why I don't like it so much from the other perspective is it's never objective. It always shows that technology is fundamentally bad or evil, and it's not. We are bad and evil. So if we don't if you don't learn how to use them properly, they will become a bad tool in our hands, but still we matter, not how that technology turns out to be useful or not. Thank you for raising this issue. Please.
What's the most interesting piece of technology or application or gadget that you come across in your journey? What's your favorite?
Oh my God, that's not a fair question. For me, the one I saw in real life, and that's what matters here, for me was IBM Watson. So I have worked with medical record systems. I know how hard it is. It requires IT skills, like in the old era, to work with those IT systems. But when you see Watson for the first time, and it tells you that based on the 27 million medical studies on PubMed.com, the database of medical studies, these are the 3 pieces of information coming from these and those studies that you should think about. Man, that's mind-blowing. So when you think you know everything, and of course you don't, but then a technology tells you that, well, you don't, but I do. Although I cannot make your decisions, so the only thing I can do is to provide you with all the relevant information you need, and then you can make the most informed decision. That felt like I was in a futuristic science fiction world. So for me, it's IBM Watson yet. Thank you for that question. There's one hand over there.
So you talked a lot about the stress level, the emotional health, and then you talked about, probably 20 different technologies that we can use to assess our health. That's probably causing stress to all of us. So what do you see the future of integrating all this to reduce our stress?
Thank you for the question. That's absolutely true. That's what happens. So you become stressed by the need to use more and more devices to measure everything that you want to measure. I do hope that in 5 years I can open up a museum with all these. I have about 100 gadgets at home. And we will all laugh at all these together, at Bluetooth connections and charging them. I have, I guess, 50 meters of cable in my baggage right now. So it's nonsense. But that's just the dawn of the digital health era. What I hope that it will turn out to become is like literally a digital tattoo or something that can be very easy to use, very easy to wear, thin, small, and you have nothing to do with it. It's not about your skills and your reluctance to technology. It's about just the fact that you want to get better and you don't want your life to depend on pure luck. So of course you wear one of these tiny devices, but when there's something wrong, it tells you what to do. When you have a bad sleep, it gives you suggestions about what to change. Now there is nothing like that. You need to come up with suggestions and changes yourself. And it has been a trial and error method for me, but it's a research method, so of course not many patients will want to use that. So again, one device that has all these, like a tricorder in the form of a digital tattoo, and that's just going to be one. I want that to communicate with my phone, with my medical records, with whatever device I use. And I know it creates a big brother-like world. That's the balance that we need to be able to define. I'm happy to give up some of my privacy to live 30 years longer. And as right now, the 1% richest Americans live 10, 15 years longer than the 1% poorest Americans because they have access to technologies, I want to use technologies to live longer and healthier lives. If on the way good regulations defend my privacy, that's jackpot, but now I'm still okay giving up some of my privacy to live longer and healthier lives. Thank you. And I guess that's it. Time's up. It's quite easy to find me online. If you have any more questions or need book suggestions and movie suggestions about science fiction, please find me and let me know. Thank you so much for having me here, and I wish you a very successful, great day today. Thank you again.